So recently, I went to the doctor. It's the first time going in, I think, over 3 years now. Possibly just 2 years. It was either 2020 or early 2021. It's the last time I went to a doctor. And I think it was like November 2020, actually. Might have been March 2021. Anyway, they did some blood work, so I wanted to see if I was diabetic or not. Because every day I do exercises for physical and mental health. I find that physical exercise can affect, dopamine regulation, serotonin levels, oxytocin, endorphins, etc. And it worked. It's been working great because all my blood tests came back normal. Everything was in the normal levels: kidneys, liver, thyroid gland. And so this is awesome to me because, well, first of all, my dad told me when I was a kid, when I was like 10 years old, 8 years old, that diabetes was inevitable in our family. And I just knew he was full of crap, even as a kid. Because my grandfather, who was a Marine in the military and was a cattle rancher who had to work really hard to, grow his own food. He lived off of a lot of food that he farmed because grocery stores, running water and electricity, etc., weren't really a mainstream thing back then, especially in Taos. Didn't even really have paved roads till the 70s. So I knew my dad was lying. And he had diabetes at 23 or 24, whereas me at 42 am not only diabetes free, but the last time I got tested, I was pre-diabetic, and now I'm not even pre-diabetic anymore. I've reversed it completely to just normal. The other thing is thyroid levels are normal. So for those who don't know, a biological marker of schizophrenia is hyperactive thyroid. Hyperactive thyroid activity, hyperactive thyroid gland. Bob Sapolsky discusses this in his lecture on schizophrenia. Excuse me. And this is where he says that, that it's actually an advantage for schizophrenics because they have low rates of cancer from smoking because of the hyperactivity in the neck, the thyroid gland. So I found that really awesome because this means that, I kept drawing these conclusions that my self-education, which I started applying to self-apply mental and physical health care, right, solve my own problems rather than depend on the state and the taxpayer, etc., it kept drawing me to this conclusion that the only way X could be true is if people were lying, right? So one example is marijuana. Everyone, these aggressive liars on the internet would tell me that, secondhand smoke doesn't affect you, it doesn't affect anybody, weed is harmless, blah, 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 blah. These are greedy liars. Yet where I moved, it's illegal, and it's still illegal, thank God. They struck down medical legalization, which is just a big scam anyway, and a lie. And I actually call the cops every time I smell it, and they come out. So this has eliminated or greatly reduced involuntary exposure to secondhand marijuana, which has produced mental stability. I'm in university, I'm getting good grades, I'm dealing with corruption within the Christian university, but that's the whole different story. So, corruption in the church. But I digress. That tells me that these people were lying, right? I applied the scientific method, process of elimination. If I make the statement that marijuana is the cause of my schizophrenia, the only way to falsify that is to remove and isolate and eliminate involuntary exposure to secondhand marijuana. If that involuntary exposure is removed and the symptoms still persist, the scientific method has been applied, process of elimination has falsified my statement. But nobody was willing to try that. And everybody's like, no, you don't, you just got to accept it. You can't fight it. Just quit thinking about it, right? Quit using your brain. Thinking bad. And my own family was doing this. My own family members were telling, oh, weed's fine. We know people who smoke weed and they didn't lose their hand, so therefore it can't be the weed with you. I'm like, instead of telling me, oh, good for you, you've quit doing drugs, you're going to college, you're in university, you're trying to get off, welfare and achieve financial independence, that is a good thing? No. What's wrong with drugs? So this tells me they were lying. This scientifically proves it. And I drew that conclusion initially because when I left Seattle, I can't remember what year it was now, it was like 2013, 2014. I ended up in Colorado where my cousin was smoking marijuana inside his house with his kids present, and just shitty people like that, right? And that was setting off my schizophrenia, but I didn't know. And I first drew the connection when I was living in this house in Albuquerque, this white liberal who would smoke marijuana beneath me. I was in the attic, he would be in the floor beneath me, and it would go up into the attic, and I would start experiencing symptoms. And at that point, I had begun, keeping journals and documenting positive symptom presentation, time, duration, and frequency, as well as, what was going on. Was it an auditory hallucination, a visual hallucination, both? What were the voices saying? What was I seeing? Documented all of it. And keeping these journals, I realized that with the elimination of involuntary exposure to secondhand marijuana, my symptoms would decrease 80%, 80 to 90% reduction in positive symptom presentation. And so that's when I drew the connection that secondhand marijuana, forced drugging, involuntary exposure, was setting off my schizophrenia. So without medication and without, this is like cause and effect. Putting a schizophrenic on meds is profiting and treating the effects, not eliminating the cause. Criminalizing marijuana and enforcing the law eliminates the cause. Prevention is much greater than treatment and recovery. And that's also awesome with the diabetes because, I've been kosher for a while now. I did fall off the derech there last month because I ran out of money and my roommate cooked a bunch of pork and I had to do that to survive. I didn't have nothing else to eat, but fortunately, a Catholic guy sent me some money and then, food stamps hit and all that stuff, so I'm able to purchase kosher food again. Oh, especially the kosher hot dogs. The Hebrew National. Delicious. Lechem vebasal bakal. Anyway, that's all. Really proud of it. I mean, it's weird because my education and applying this sort of science to identify things like marijuana as a cause of schizophrenia and, do non-narcotic pain management alternatives like diet and exercise to treat mental and physical health issues, as well as other self-applied, psychology and neuroscience and things like that, isolates me from my family and people I thought were my friends. They never were my friends. All we had in common was drugs. I realize that now. But that's a reflection of how corrupt our society is like that, choosing to be drug-free and live healthy, mentally and physically healthy, it makes me an outcast from an immoral society that is very corrupt, because what I'm doing is in direct opposition to moral corruption just by lifestyle choices.